Do you ever wish that you knew things years ago, or that you could cut off time from your learning curve, or that you had insight and wisdom that could literally change the trajectory of your business, your life, or your money? Well, I did too. In fact, I would have given millions to have the insight I'm going to share with you today, because I'm going to share some of the best financial decisions I've made so that you can learn from my successes and failures. So let's dive into the best financial decisions I have made. Hi, my name is Annette Bau, your host of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. I'm a certified financial planner and founder of the Millionaire Insider. For over 30 years, I have been advising and researching the top 1% of millionaires, and I am passionately obsessed with money, mindset, and the intersection of self-worth and net worth, and how the two connect and allow us to live fulfilled and wealthy lives on our terms. I'm a Midwestern girl who had a dream, began investing $25 a month 35 years ago, and today have a multi-million-dollar net worth. I teach the tried and true that only someone with over 3 decades of experience advising millionaires would know. This podcast is different, about much more than money. We talk about mindset, success, money blocks, worth barometer, and all aspects of money and topics from practical manifestation, along with real-world how-to and everything in between, with the goal of making your journey easier and more fun. Think of this as coffee, actually matcha tea, learning real-world common sense money and life advice from a BFF that you can start applying today. If you want to create a financially free life you love, you are in the right place, my friend. This is the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. Today's free resource is our Millionaire Mindset. You can go to themillionaireinsider.com/SMMG to access it. If you want one of the most insightful resources available on millionaires, how they think, how they develop habits, and how they create wealth, you can access this free guide. I've literally spent the last 30 plus years advising and researching wealthy clients, and I share all the insight in this resource. You can access it at themillionaireinsider.com/SMMG. The insight you're going to learn in this resource is priceless, and it's literally unavailable because most people haven't spent the last 3 decades advising millionaires and almost 40 years researching them. So again, themillionaireinsider.com/SMMG. You're going to love that resource. For today's show notes, you can go to themillionaireinsider.com/29. All materials and intellectual property are copywritten by themillionaireseries.com. The information we provide is not intended to replace any advisor or specialist or to provide you any investment, financial, tax, retirement, or any planning or healthcare advice. All participants agree to hold millionaireseries.com and its affiliates harmless for results achieved or not achieved. So let's dive into the best financial decisions I have made. The first one is you got to marry the right person. And I personally feel marriage is one of the most challenging relationships in our lives. That's why it's so important to choose the right partner, because let's face it, not only do they dictate a lot about your personal life, your emotions, things such as that, but money. You marry the wrong person, just cut that net worth in half, especially if you live in a community property state. But ideally, you want to find someone who understands you, who shares your values. For me, it's integrity, money, family, relationships. And specifically when it comes to money is the fact that even though I'm probably a little more focused on the accumulation of wealth than my husband, we're both very conscious of money and we take it very seriously and we want to be good stewards of the money we've been blessed with. And we also have a philosophy of making collaborative decisions. And so it's just really important that you find the right person, you marry the right person, and that you do it ideally from a place of love, higher vibration as compared to fear, worry, anxiety. People that I see who've had such challenges in their relationships oftentimes attract somebody when they're at a low point, and that's never ideal. So just be aware of that. But marrying the right person is critical and has been one of the best decisions I've made. The second one is to start financial planning early in my life. I share that I began saving $25 a month 35 years ago. And then as I started accumulating wealth, I ultimately became debt-free. I'm convinced that the discipline I had to save money when I didn't have money is what has helped me arrive at my net worth goal. And it's also helped me to live a fulfilled and wealthy life. Because what happens is when you develop that skill, you are able to execute regardless of what's happening out there. You are much more focused on where you are right now, where you want to go, the emotion you want to feel when you get there, and it changes everything. So start planning and saving early on. One thing I just want to add, when you start an investment plan, if you're getting professional advice, which I strongly recommend, make sure it's from a qualified advisor. A lot of people who are out now giving investment advice are not registered, they're unlicensed, and they're not qualified. So just be aware of that. All right, hire a great team of advisors. Oh, this is so critical. So the first one I hired was a CPA who does our taxes, and she's still our CPA to this day, although she sold her firm to a junior partner, but she still does work on our stuff. And she also helps with accounting and questions relating to that. Now, for years, I had somebody who did our accounting, but what I found a lot of times that was happening is she would miss things, and it wasn't her fault. She just had no idea we didn't make that charge or the fact that they double billed us. And so what I found was that, we save a lot more money now that I'm paying more attention to it because I'm aware of what we're spending money on. And if we see a charge that, wait a minute, what is that charge? We can do something about it in a timely manner. I also found that it took me longer when I wasn't doing it, literally like double the time. Because what ended up happening is I had to go back and just figure out, okay, wait, are all these categorized correctly? Are these all accurate? What about this? What's this? Oh, I don't understand that. Or no, this is wrong. I mean, it's just one thing after another. And the third thing is I wasn't on top of our spending. I mean, we've got a complicated situation. I think we're down to like 8 tax returns, maybe 7. I mean, it's crazy how many tax returns we do. But I mean, at one time we were up to like 12. I'm like, this is crazy. We cannot have this complicated of a situation. So we have dummied that down. But the issue is now I'm much more on top of what we're spending in our different partnerships and where we are from a cash flow standpoint. It takes me about 6 to 8 hours a month to do our accounting, and that then makes us prepared for tax planning. Here we are, the end of September, and we are just getting ready to do our final return because we can't do our final return, which is our personal return, until we've done all the partnerships. So it does take some time. So yeah, it is a lot, but it also gives me such an insight. I think that's critical. So again, you got to decide for you. But if you do delegate it, just don't abdicate it. I've seen so many people almost go bankrupt and some going bankrupt because they were delegating, but they were also abdicating. They weren't paying attention and they had a silent partner. Oftentimes what they do is they take the tax money. And so instead of making quarterly tax payments, they're pocketing it. Now, if you use a third party, that will help. But boy, just pay attention. We also hired an attorney, an estate planning attorney, and you want to have somebody that's really qualified in tax planning with LLCs and trusts and all those things. Business attorney is important. Securities attorney, obviously, I have one of those because I'm in that industry. And that attorney, who's been mine for years, 20 years, is priceless because I can bounce a variety of ideas off. And he's actually named as our trust protector when we die. A trade name attorney is important. I have one of those. And then also I have a success coach and I have a business coach, very helpful. And I have a therapist. And I've had a therapist. We've had marriage therapists, which have been priceless, like a psychologist. And I have a personal one. And I find that to be one of the best decisions I've made. And I think probably one of the things that my personal therapist has done, and I got a new one about 2 or 3 years ago. I hadn't had one for quite a while. And then my good friend, who's a therapist, found one. She goes, she was so good. I'm like, I'm going to go to her. And she's like, why are you here? I'm like, I'm not sure, but I'm sure I'll find out. But she's really been helpful in helping me really deal with like the embodiment of emotion and being able to look at situations and have the confidence of saying, okay, that's right or that's wrong, especially when it comes to my family, and helping me really set boundaries and not ignore behaviors that are unacceptable. And to me, that's been priceless because I think sometimes I want everyone to get along. I want everyone to be happy. I have these like totally screwed up beliefs about like what a family should be like. I want this like leave it to beaver, but most people don't have a leave it to beaver. I don't even know if that's if it's leave it to beaver. Whoever has a really harmonious family, everyone gets along, everyone's mentally healthy. It's not reality. Okay. So anyway, that's just been priceless for me. So I encourage you, you got to find your team, but make sure you got a great one. And having one that gets more than just, say, the relationship side, that really gets the money side, that really gets some other things can be helpful. So again, you got to decide, but it's been really priceless for me. One of the first psychologists I had was when I was in college and I was really depressed. And thank God I never killed myself. But, I just had a miserable childhood, a really traumatic one. I remember when I was talking to him about my experience of growing up and he started crying. He had been a counselor for literally 26 years because I was 24 at the time. And he's like, I have never met anyone who's gone through the emotional, really more the emotional and physical. To make a long story short, he said, I've never met anyone who's gone through that kind of trauma as a child who isn't either a drug addict or an alcoholic. And he starts crying. And I'll never forget it because I remember thinking, okay, I should be the one crying, right? But it gave me hope that I could have money and I could also be mentally healthy. I could live fulfilled. And I think one of the things that's so important for all of us as far as our mental health is really being able to be open and honest with other people. And thank goodness I've never been depressed. I was depressed growing up because I was in such a miserable environment. But I rarely am depressed. Sometimes I get overwhelmed. Sometimes I get a little anxious, but nothing like what I experienced growing up. And so I just encourage you to have this self-confidence and the self-esteem, a healthy worth barometer where you can go get help, even if you don't really feel like you need help. Like when I hired my most recent therapist, it wasn't like there was any real pressing issue. But then over the course of that, some things came up that she's been so helpful with, and it's just priceless. And she's like, you're the best. I have so enjoyed working with you, which is such a compliment because she's renowned. She speaks nationally. I'm like, because I'm so screwed up. She's like, no, you have helped me look at my own stuff and really step up as a person. What a compliment. My point being is not here to brag and say, I'm such a great therapist patient, but is to really have the confidence and the ability to get help and to feel that that is okay, that that's normal. Many of my close friends and even family members have a therapist, and I think that's a good thing. And if you don't have a therapist, then hire a life coach. But regardless of what you do, make sure you've got somebody that's on your team and really helping you to achieve the life you desire. The next one is to live debt-free. So I became a millionaire at about age 32, and I became debt-free at about age 43. I was debt-free at about 40, but we still had a small mortgage on one of our rental properties. So 43, it was all gone. And with the exception of an occasional leased car, because sometimes it's better to lease, it's cheaper than it is to pay cash, we've basically lived debt-free. Now we're building a multi-million-dollar home and we're going to build that debt-free. And that's huge for me. But living debt-free, in my opinion, has been amazing. With taxes and insurance, sometimes it feels like you have a mortgage, right? Because when you don't have a mortgage, you have to pay those. While you may not be able to live debt-free early in your life, just consider it as a goal. For me and my clients who live debt-free, which is most of my clients, we all agree it provides us so much peace of mind and so much less stress. And I find for women, this is a much bigger issue than men. My husband, like, what's the big deal? I'm like, I just want to know that I don't have debt. And I want to know that I have guaranteed income. Like, to me, that's just important. Not so much to him. All right, spend less than you make. I share in the overspending episode, and I will link to that in the show notes, millionaireininsider.com/27, that most people think it's the big expenditures that get you in trouble, when in reality, I find it's the little things, those $5 a day coffees, those $1 a day Slurpees. They're not that big of a deal, right? But it's when you start having the 2 or 3 and you start having them every day, And all of a sudden you're like, wow, we are spending so much money on this. Our friends were spending like $8,000 a year on coffee, specialty coffee. And they're like, oh my gosh, we didn't realize it was that much. So just think about what you could do with $8,000, even investing it and compound interest. My gosh, you start doing that early enough, you're going to be a millionaire. It's crazy, the numbers. In fact, one of the future episodes, I'll do the math on that, but it's huge. The other thing is we closely monitor our expenses. And while we buy what we want and need, both my husband and I are very aware of our cash flow, and we're very good stewards of our money. I mean, that's one thing I am so pleased with. And I'm so happy that we both are in alignment on that and that we both are very focused on living below our means, unlike one of our children who doesn't understand that concept. And it can be really difficult for it. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm like, do you think they dropped him at the hospital? Or do you think he was born to someone else and they've switched him? And I'm actually joking, but boy, he is so about spending money and living rich as compared to our other children, which are much more about accumulating wealth. Very interesting. I began investing early in life in real estate and stocks. Always check with a qualified advisor before investing in anything, whether it's stocks, bonds, mutual funds, or real estate. Now, one of the questions I get a lot is, would I purchase real estate now? Now, you know, we have made millions in real estate and we own millions in real estate. And one thing I would say is if I was investing in real estate right now, because real estate is really high, is I would look at sweat equity. So I would find some property, maybe even one that's in receivership, and there are some, you have to do some work, but that's structurally sound. And sometimes you can't verify that when you buy it, but find one that is structurally sound and that has just a need for like new paint and new flooring. And you can then do the bathrooms as you have the money. But that's where you might be able to get a decent deal. I'm talking about something that you could buy, that you could get a good price on because it needs to have some improvements. And then you do a lot of the work yourself. Now, I suppose I could paint. I would not do floors. My husband and I are actually pretty good at that. We did a lot up at our cabin. We've done 3 additions. And our last addition, we did a lot. And we probably saved about $300,000 to $400,000 on all the work we did. That's the power of it. Now, not everyone's capable of that, but there are things you can do. You can paint. One of our neighbors up north, she taught herself how to lay tile and she did the entire stone in her house herself. I was like, that's unbelievable. It can be done. Create passive streams of income. So important. I learned early on from Millionaires that the focus should be on streams of income and revenue versus a time for money model. Examples are like passive guaranteed income. Now, this is generally through insurance companies, and I'll link to the article on annuities in the show notes, but so powerful. Pensions also are an option, but those are much rarer for younger people. You can earn passive income from dividends and interest, as well as an online business. There are also options like network marketing or affiliate marketing. You just got to figure out your personality, what works for you, and then go for it. That's the key as far as determining passive versus active revenue. One of the other really key things I did was commit to not just advising millionaires, wealthy people, but also researching them. One of the things that I did from advising is people say, well, your 5 closest friends are going to dictate your income. Meaning, if you look at your 5 closest friends, your income will be around theirs. Well, I took it and I said, well, what about clients and net worth? One of my peers said, that's a great idea. Well, it made a huge difference in my life. So when you're around people who are wealthy, you start thinking and acting like them, right? And then what I started realizing is some had amazing lives, some had fulfilled and wealthy lives, and others had miserable and wealthy lives. And so then I thought, I've got to figure out what that's all about. And that's where I really started learning about the worth barometer. You can go to the millionaireinsider.com/3 if you want more insight on the worth barometer. But that's the other thing is elevating my worth barometer. I work every day to elevate my worth barometer. Am I perfect? No. Your worth barometer is a combination of your self-esteem and your beliefs, and it dictates our wealth barometer to a point. meaning there are people who have a lot of money who have a very low worth barometer. But if you want to have a fulfilled and wealthy life, you've got to have a healthy worth barometer. It dictates our ability to say yes or no. And it also gives us the discipline to create a financial plan and to commit to securing a financial future and retirement we love. That's the power of a worth barometer. And I am so grateful that I learned that and that I really committed to working with successful people to figure out what's really going on. So there you have it. So let's review some of the insights. Number one, marry the right person. 2, start financial planning early in your life. 3, hire a great team of advisors, not just financial advisors, but mental health advisors, coaches, things such as that. 4, live debt-free. 5, spend less than you make. 6, start investing early in life. 7, create passive and residual streams of revenue. And 8, elevate your worth barometer. Oh, you're going to be so glad you did. Thank you so much for joining me for the best financial decisions I made. If you love the content of this podcast, please follow and subscribe to our channel so you get notified of episodes, and also give us a 5-star review and share a comment. We really appreciate it. Congratulations on taking another step to create a financially free life you love. If you're not sure about your financial future or that it's in order, or you are ready to stop worrying about money, or possibly the fear of becoming a bag lady, ending up broke in retirement, or you simply are ready to know your financial house is in order so that you can have a bright financial future, please go to themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. And that doesn't stand for non-sufficient funds. It stands for Next Step Finance. It's the next best step of what you need to do so you can avoid an NSF notice in your future. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. The number of women who were not broke or poor while working or married is staggering. The entire mission of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast is to ensure you have the information for you, your family, your friends, anyone who's willing to listen to it and apply it so that you can create a financially free life you love. Again, themillionaireinsider.com/NSF. Until our next episode, take one action that will help you create a financially free life you love. I'm Annette Bau, host of the Wealth Inside and Out podcast. All international copyrights are reserved. Bye for now.